Hi guys, we're going to talk about adding a database within your Azure cloud account and then accessing that database through Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio on your desktop. This is not a difficult process, so let's get started. Now, if you already have an Azure account, please log in. If you don't, you can create a free trial account for learning purposes. So we have our free trial account here. I'm going to click on SQL Databases and create SQL Database. Now the first thing we want to do is create our resource group. So I'm going to click on Create New. The resource group allows us to manage our different resources and costs involved with our resources. So I call it the simplest name I can think of. In this case, just Mike Resource. Okay, I've created my resource group, and now I'm going to create a new server. So I'm going to click on Create New, and here we have the menu, the server name. I'm going to name my server Mike. Why not be consistent? I'll name it Mike Server. Server admin login, make that Mike. Password, think of a password, has to be legal. If you notice, we have prompts all along the way helping us. So our location, I'm in the Western United States, so click on whatever, we have a drop down and select whatever your location is. Select Allow Azure Services to access the server, and then we click on Select at the bottom. Okay, we have our new server. And now for database name, we want to create a sample database, and the name of the sample database is AdventureWorks LT. So if you type in AdventureWorks LT, then Azure will create a sample database populated with data. So AdventureWorks LT. There we go. I'm going to check my spelling, and this green arrow means it can locate that database. Do we want to use SQL Elastic Pool? We're not going to worry about this right now. That might be a feature you might want to use in the future. So review and create. So let's click here. Create. Initializing deployment. So this takes a minute, so you need to be patient with this. But while we're waiting for this, I want you to be aware of the different selections down here. Okay, there we have our server, and it's continuing to deploy. So while we're waiting for that, let's click on the server. It says duration 1 minute. There we go. So we have our server, we have our database. It's still creating our database. We're going to be patient. Let's see if we can access our server right now. Okay, good. Click on Properties. So it's giving us the server name and the address. Now this is what we're going to be using in our SQL Server Management Studio window in order to be able to access the server. So write down this name, or you can copy it. I'm going to copy it. Okay, now also let's click on Firewalls and Virtual Networks. So here we have our IP address. Now you want to make sure that we have a firewall configured, and we don't have a firewall configured. So what we're going to do is we can type this in, or we can copy it and actually go back and copy the other one again. So the rule name, we'll call this sample. That's the name of our firewall. And then we have this IP address. This is the starting IP address and the ending IP address. So we're just copying our client IP address into here. Click on here to save. So it saved the sample. So there we have our firewall set up. We have it configured. Very good. Now let's click back to Properties. So it's saying that we need to save this. So click on Save. Okay, we've saved our changes. Good. Now click on OK and Properties. Now select our database address. Okay, now let's go back to the database, make sure everything is complete. Okay, we have our database set up. Excellent. Now let's click over to Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, and we will reconnect to the Object Explorer. So we want to bring up the server name, and the server name you will type in here, or you will copy it. Make sure that's correct. So in my case, it's mikeserver.database.windows.net. Okay, we're using SQL Server authentication. So make sure this is selected, and then your login that you had created for the database for Azure, and your password, type that in. And if everything is correct, we should be able to actually connect to the Azure database. Okay, very good. It looks like we're connected. So here we have Mike Server Database Windows.net, and I'm going to open this. Here we have the database, and it looks like we have copied our database over. Here's our AdventureWorks LT. Good job.